and welcome to the Real Men of Real Estate radio show. I'm your host, Patrick Franz, the Note Mentor. You know it. And you know, every single show, we're talking about note investing, right? How to collect passive cash flow from real estate without owning the real estate. And every time you listen in, you know darn well I'm going to have some amazing guest speakers on my show because I want you folks and you listeners out there to have a very well-rounded education when it comes to note investing, because y'all know I think it's one of the best investment vehicles out there, and you got to know how to get it done, and you got to add it to your portfolio. You got to have notes, right? Every savvy investor needs notes. But here's the thing, folks. Generally in life, we may think, or the public may think, it might be like a public sentiment. I think they make fun of attorneys and lawyers and movies and everything else. And maybe we're like afraid of them, right? Because we don't ever want to get a letter from an attorney that we're getting sued for something. And everybody's afraid of that. Let me tell you something, folks. In the note investing business, in your real estate investing business, you better make some good friends with some good attorneys because, listen, they are your friends. They're on your team, and you need legal counsel in several different ways when it comes to note investing. And so you're going to love today's show. I know you are. I have an awesome guest on. Her name's Erin Quinn from Quinn Legal. She is one of the attorneys that I began utilizing in the very beginning of my note investing business, and I still utilize her today. We've become great friends. She's a blast to hang out with at the national note investing conferences. And let me tell you, mostly she is very good at what she does. And so, you know, she operates out of what it is, Florida and Georgia. And, you know, she's helped me with some pretty hard cases, some pretty amazing things where we've run into some things where we've gone, oh my God. And she's been able to handle it for me. And so she's a wonderful friend of mine and colleague in the space. And she is our guest today to help us learn a little bit about maybe some legalities and the importance of having the right legal counsel when dealing with mortgage notes. And how to go about handling maybe foreclosures and those things, the dirty words we don't like to talk about. So Erin Quinn is on my show today. Welcome into the show, Erin. Thank you so much for spending your time. I know you're at home. You got your daughter. This show's recorded for purposes of she's in Florida. I'm in San Diego. Not going to get Erin into my real studio. And so thank you for sharing your time back from 2 conferences, taking care of the kids, still committing her time to my audience. And so thank you so much for coming on. Feel free to introduce yourself because, listen, I want you to tell this story that I love so much about you that I got all fascinated with. But it's like, you know, if you talk to somebody that's like now a successful heart surgeon, right? And a heart surgeon told you and they said to you, you know, it's an amazing thing about me. When I was 3 years old, I always knew I wanted to be a heart surgeon. I would think that was a little strange, and I love that, but that is your story, right, Erin?
It is. Yes. And I don't even know how I come back from that introduction. I don't know what I feel like. I don't even know what to say. But so thank you for that introduction. And I'm glad to hear that you've been using me since the beginning of your note career. I did not know that, actually, just so you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I did threaten maybe to sue somebody when I was 3 years old on the bus. So that story, if you want me to go through that, is basically that when I was very young, I knew very early on that I wanted to be probably rich. I'm pretty sure it was probably to do with being rich. You know, I was like, oh my God, lawyers make a bunch of money. Don't know why that was at 3 years old, because most people don't even like remember what they had for breakfast at that age, but that's fine. And so I knew very early on that I wanted to have, you know, an education and that I wanted to be a lawyer like some people that I knew. And when it came to my kindergarten year, I had to ride the bus to school every day. So the buses came and they actually stopped in front of your actual house. Like, I don't know if you have that out where you are, but when I was young, and we lived in a little rural town, everybody stopped at every line. So I got on the bus, and I don't know if I was trying to sit down next to somebody or whatever the case may be, but they somehow got my attention and they were not being very nice to me. And so I just threatened to sue them on the bus. And so of course they called my mom and, you know, well, your daughter's, you know, I don't know why that was a big deal. You'd think that they wouldn't have to like tell my mommy over it, but they did. So that's been a legendary story in my family, because ultimately, yes, I did become an attorney just like I thought I wanted to when I was 3. So
it's such an epic story though, right? So folks, I mean, I hope you're getting that, right? She's 3 years old. She already sort of knew she wanted to be a lawyer and attorney. She maybe thought because they were wealthy people and she wanted to be wealthy, whatever the 3-year-old fantasy was, but that's so cool, right? That she already had it like inside her that she wanted to be somebody like that. And then it comes down to just like a year or two later, she's in kindergarten. Somebody didn't treat her so nice on the school bus. And she said, well, listen, I hope you're ready to hear from my lawyer because I'm going to have a lawsuit on you. It's just such a funny story.
Don't screw with me.
I just love it. I just love it. Right. And like,
Yeah.
guys, see, that's why she's on my team, right? Who doesn't want an attorney on your side that has had this in her since she was 3 years old or in kindergarten? Come on now.
I really do think I was born to do it. I still love it. Went to, obviously, I did have a little bit of waywardness when I was in high school. There was a point where I was like, why do all my friends know what they want to do with their lives, or don't know what they want to do with their lives, but I do. And so then I got like, oh, well, maybe I'll go to medical school instead of law school. Like, or maybe I need to give myself the option to go to either of those post-secondary education, places. And so I was like, okay, well, what I'm going to do then is I'm going to go to school and be a biology major. And I'm going to, because that way I can go to med school, but I can also go to law school with a biology major because I don't have many prereqs for law school. So of course I got to my actual sophomore year of college and I'm in this biology major and I'm getting the hang of all the science stuff and, all these things that I've got to learn. And then I got to organic chemistry, which is the classic weed out class for med school students, and realized I was definitely meant to be a lawyer. Not meant to be a doctor, meant to be a lawyer. There was no way that I was going to wrap my brain around all of those things. At least at that point in my life, I was not willing to put in that time to understand like my Russian professor and how he talked and how, all these little biology things he's doing on the screen, or chemistry things he was doing. I couldn't. So it was done. It was solidified. Lawyer it is. Went to finish my degree, actually changed majors to criminology so I could do something that was fun because I love forensics, and then got my degree, went on to law school, all she wrote. So here we are.
Unbelievable, right? So, interesting that, somebody has that passion. And then of course, you get into the teenage years or whatever, you see other people doing other stuff and you might get drawn here, there. You don't quite know your path. You had the idea, but it clicked, right? So you had a couple of these classes where you were like, okay, some of that's not for me. Okay, got it. So I'm going to go with my passion I've always wanted to do. And when you got into it, right? So you get out of your schooling, which is hard enough as it is. And people think that when they get that college degree, that's going to set them free, boy. But you got that college degree and then you get out into the real world and you realize that it's not that easy to start your own law practice. It's not that easy to get in with a big firm or kind of get your career set on the right path. But you were able to do so. How did that look like when you got out of school? How did you start becoming somebody that was a player in the industry?
So I think for me, the biggest thing that I tried to remember is to always take advantage of any opportunity that I was presented. So, I didn't grow up in a very wealthy family and I didn't have money backing me on, to an infinite extent. Like it was my student loans that were paying, for my degree. So what really started is I got my 4-year degree. And once I got my 4-year degree, I was working in restaurants and, trying to figure out, I think I was just about to graduate actually with my 4-year degree when I was actually working at TGI Fridays in the Tampa Bay or Tampa International Airport. And I ran into a couple like kids like 18 years old and they work, I can hear them talking about a law firm. I'm serving their table. And so I'm like, oh, what kind of law do you guys do? Because I'm really looking to get into a firm and get my foot in the door. And they were like, oh, you should come work for our firm. It's amazing. It's a default firm. We do foreclosure and bankruptcy. It's epic, right? No, I'm just kidding. They were like, yeah, I work at a law firm in a file room, So I had no idea what like type of law it was. I just knew that for me, it was going to be easier for me to get my foot in the door somehow and get my feet wet doing that than it was going to be just cold providing my resume with just my, experience as a server. And of course that law firm, I sent my resume in and they didn't call me, didn't write me. And The underlying thing here, just so you know, is that as a young person, and maybe a little bit as an adult too now, I have a line of naivete where it doesn't like quite calculate in my brain when I might be annoying people or they may be telling me no without telling me no. So I was literally calling them like every week asking for status of my resume, like were they going to hire me, were they not? And they were, you know, it was probably a few months later, they finally were like, Jesus, I'm just going to take this girl and interview her to get her off of my back, you know. So they did, and they ended up hiring me. I ended up being the receptionist in that law firm. So that's really how I ended up in this space, was just that pure chance happening. I was, you know, serving tables and ended up in this law firm doing foreclosure and bankruptcy. And that was in 2002. So October of 2002 is when I started my career in default services for foreclosure and bankruptcy practice in the real estate industry. And then from there, it was, you know, move up in that company. Then that was kind of during a break between undergrad and law school for me. I kind of needed a little bit of time to get my bearings, and I wanted to pay off my undergrad debt because I really wanted to take off that first year. And I didn't feel like I'd be able to take off my first year and pay all my bills without like getting rid of that underlying debt. So I paid off all my student loan debt, got my stuff in order, and put my application in and went to law school in 05, I think. 05. Yes.
Nice.
Spring 05. Spring 05 is when I started. So started spring of 05. Sorry, wait, summer of 05. It doesn't matter. It was 05. And then after that, it was 2.5 years of law school. And then again, advantage, foot in the door, just moving from that law firm. One of the people that that had mentored me in that law firm that was an attorney was opening another firm locally they were opening the default, I guess, arm or branch of a real estate firm that traditionally did a lot of closings. So I wanted, again, my foot in the door. This was an experience that I felt like would be good for me. It's, you know, starting a firm, even though I was a legal assistant or law clerk at the time and hadn't had my license yet. In 06, when I started there after my first year where I didn't work at all, I was able to get in the door, start working for free. I actually offered to work for free for a little while so that I could get that experience. And it was absolutely valuable, you know, invaluable to my career trajectory, because opening that firm, it was 3 people when we started. It was 400 when I left. And then that was where, you know, the next opportunity rolls in. I get an opportunity for a bigger position and a bigger, you know, salary, and you know, move to open another law firm for another, it was a branch of a Texas-based default firm. So they wanted to move into Florida. So I did that. So everything has been very opportunistic and just, you know, what's my next step? Where do I see that opportunity? And can I make it happen when it's time?
I'll tell you what, you know, and I hope the listeners are understanding, guys. I mean, sometimes that's how it is. You want to achieve your dreams. You want to become the person that you've always dreamt you can become. Sometimes you got to eat dirt. Sometimes you got to go work for a professional that's above you and better for free. Offer your services, get in somehow, be a receptionist at a firm, do what you got to do to become successful, as Erin Quinn is today, folks. And so we're going to take our first commercial break, and we're going to be right back with more of Erin Quinn and talking about the real nitty gritty of the legal side of mortgage note investing. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a few minutes.